Have you ever wondered why some people seem to grow more distant, more isolated, and even more invisible as they get older, while others remain surrounded by warmth, laughter, and love, well into their 70s, 80s, and beyond? It's not about luck. It's not just about who had more friends or who aged more gracefully. Most of the time, it comes down to small, silent habits that sneak into our lives as we grow older. Habits that chip away at our joy, damage our relationships, and close the doors to connection without us even noticing. These are not dramatic mistakes. In fact, they're often disguised as normal behavior. A little grumble here, a refusal to change there, the quiet decision to stay home instead of reaching out. But over time, these habits build walls. Walls that separate us from the very people who once gave our lives meaning. The scariest part? Most of us don't realize we've developed these patterns until it's too late, until the calls stop coming, until our home is filled with more silence than laughter, until we start to wonder, why does life feel smaller now than it used to? But here's the good news. You can change. These habits can be unlearned. The damage can be repaired. And the joy you think you've lost can be rediscovered, starting today. In this video, we're going to walk through 11 powerful, eye-opening habits that quietly push people away as we age, and more importantly, how to break them. You'll meet Sarah, a once vibrant 71-year-old who unknowingly let these habits take root in her life, and how she slowly, painfully, but beautifully turned things around. And I want you to stick with me until the very end, because habit 7, yes, number 7, is something so many of us fall into, and it has the power to steal years of closeness and connection before we even realize it. If you've ever felt lonely, stuck, or unsure about why the people you love seem just out of reach, this is for you. By the end of this video, you'll have not only the awareness of what's going wrong, but a clear, practical path to create more warmth, more connection, and more purpose in the years ahead. So grab a warm cup of tea, settle in, and let's have an honest, healing conversation about aging with intention, not regret. Habit 1, becoming too negative or critical. It didn't happen all at once. For Sarah, it began with the little things: aching joints in the morning, a sigh when she read the news, a quiet grumble about the younger generation. At first, it felt like harmless honesty. She had lived through wars, recessions, heartbreak, and raising 3 children. She had earned the right to tell it like it is. But over time, her words took on a sharper edge. Conversations with friends felt heavier. Her children called less, and her once eager grandchildren started avoiding long visits. She didn't realize it then, but negativity was becoming a filter on her world. Every conversation turned into a critique. Every new idea, a cause for suspicion. Every memory, a weapon to show how things used to be better. It wasn't bitterness exactly. It was disappointment layered over time, never properly released. But while Sarah thought she was just being real, others felt drained. What she saw as truth, others experienced as tension. This is the danger of unchecked negativity in our later years. It doesn't just sour our mood, it erodes our relationships. It repels the very people we hope will stay close. Because nobody enjoys walking into a room where they feel judged, dismissed, or drained. Even if the complaints are justified, they create emotional distance. Over time, people stop calling. They stop sharing. They keep it surface level. And soon, a subtle but painful loneliness sets in. But here's the beautiful truth. Negativity is a habit, not a personality trait. And like any habit, it can be changed. What helped Sarah wasn't forcing fake cheerfulness. It was choosing curiosity over criticism. When her granddaughter mentioned a new hobby, instead of saying, "That sounds silly," she tried, "Tell me more." She made it a practice to start each day naming one thing she was grateful for. Not grand gestures, just small moments, like the softness of her blanket or the quiet light on the kitchen floor. And slowly, her energy shifted. She noticed her phone ringing more, conversations lasting longer, her family opening up again, because people gravitate toward those who make them feel heard, safe, and hopeful, not judged or defeated. If you found yourself complaining more lately, catching yourself mid-rant, or feeling like people aren't as present with you as they once were, it's not too late to turn things around. You don't need to ignore life's struggles. but you can choose to meet them with a spirit of kindness, gratitude, and growth. Because the world doesn't need more critics. It needs more listeners, more light bringers, and your wisdom, wrapped in warmth, can be a gift to every conversation you enter. Habit 2. Letting go of personal appearance and hygiene. There was a time when Sarah wouldn't leave the house without her favorite lavender blouse, neatly pressed slacks, and a spritz of rose perfume behind her ears. She used to say, "How you dress is how you face the world." And she believed it. She wasn't dressing up for attention or vanity. It was a quiet act of dignity, a way of saying, "I matter, and I'm showing up for life today." But somewhere along the way, that daily ritual began to fade. It started with small compromises: a skipped hair appointment, pajamas that stayed on through the afternoon, makeup that gathered dust in a drawer. She told herself, "What's the point? I'm not going anywhere today. No one's coming over." The pandemic didn't help. Isolation made her world smaller. And comfort, baggy clothes, undone hair, slippers, took the place of presentation. At first, she didn't think much of it, but over time, something strange happened. She stopped recognizing herself in the mirror. The light that once sparked behind her eyes seemed dimmer. And as her appearance faded, so did her confidence. She started withdrawing from friends, from invitations, even from photos. Her self-worth began quietly unraveling, thread by thread, not because anyone said anything, but because she no longer saw herself. Here's the thing most people don't realize. Our appearance is not just about how others see us, it's about how we see ourselves. Taking care of our hygiene and grooming is a declaration of self-respect. It says, "I'm still here, I still count." And that message echoes far beyond the mirror. Science backs this up. Numerous studies have shown that maintaining personal hygiene and grooming boosts mood, improves mental clarity, and even lowers the risk of depression in older adults. It's not superficial, it's survival. Because how we present ourselves shapes how we feel. When we stop caring for ourselves physically, it often reflects emotional neglect as well. For Sarah, the turning point came on a Tuesday afternoon. Her daughter brought over a framed photo from a family gathering a few years back. Sarah saw herself in the picture, vibrant, laughing, radiant in a red scarf. She barely recognized the woman in the photo, and not just because of the hair or the clothes, but because of the energy. She missed her, not the version society demanded, but the version she used to enjoy being. So she started small. She laid out a clean outfit every night, even if the day ahead was quiet. She resumed her hair care routine, reintroduced her favorite perfume, and found a soft lipstick that made her smile. These weren't grand acts, they were simple signals to her spirit. Wake up, you're still here, and you still matter. The impact was immediate, not because people started treating her differently, though they did, but because she treated herself differently. She stood taller, she smiled more, and when she passed a mirror, she didn't look away. If you're someone who has slowly drifted from self-care, know this: it's never too late to reclaim your image, not for vanity, but for value. You deserve to feel proud of the face you present to the world, not because it's flawless, but because it's you, resilient, alive, and worth celebrating. So today, start with one small thing: comb your hair, put on that blouse you used to love, wear earrings even if no one sees them. These little actions build momentum, and before long, you'll start to feel the energy shift. The mirror won't just show your reflection, it'll show your return. Because the moment you begin caring for your appearance again is often the moment you start caring more deeply for your life. Habit 3. Becoming stubborn and resistant to change. Sarah had always been proud of her independence. She was the kind of woman who folded her fitted sheets perfectly, made her coffee just the way she liked it, and never needed to read an instruction manual twice. Her routines were polished by decades of practice, her preferences well established. She wasn't rude about it. She simply knew what she liked and saw no reason to change what had worked for years. But as the world evolved around her, faster than ever, she started to feel a quiet distance growing between her and the people she loved. Her grandkids spoke in abbreviations she didn't understand. Her daughter preferred texting over phone calls. Even the neighborhood library she once adored had shifted to self-checkout machines and online catalogs. "I don't need all that nonsense," she'd mutter. "If they want to reach me, they can call." like a normal person. What Sarah didn't see, at least not at first, was how that resistance to change was slowly pushing her into isolation. Birthdays were missed because they were sent via group chat. Inside jokes from family text threads left her feeling out of the loop. When her son sent her a photo of her great-grandchild's first steps, she didn't get it because she hadn't downloaded the app. One by one, small moments passed her by, not because people stopped caring, but because she'd refused to step into their world. This is the trap that many fall into as they age, not because of arrogance, but because of fear. Change can feel threatening. New technology can seem overwhelming. New ideas might challenge long-held beliefs. And when you've lived long enough to see the world transform again and again, it's tempting to say, no more. I've had enough. But here's the truth. The moment we stop learning, we start shrinking. Remaining open to change isn't just about staying relevant, it's about staying connected. Studies have shown that older adults who embrace new technology and adapt to lifestyle shifts are more likely to report higher levels of happiness, lower levels of loneliness, and better mental agility. Learning, even later in life, keeps the brain alive, keeps conversations rich, and keeps your world growing instead of shrinking. The change doesn't have to be dramatic. It could be as simple as learning how to use voice-to-text on your phone, joining a video call with your family, trying a new recipe on an app, or even asking your grandchild to teach you how to play one of their favorite games. These small acts of curiosity say something powerful. I care enough to try. When Sarah finally agreed to let her granddaughter show her how to use a messaging app, something clicked, literally and emotionally. Suddenly, she was part of daily photo exchanges. She saw her great-grandkids' school projects, their messy breakfasts, their Halloween costumes, all in real time. She didn't need to be tech-savvy. She just needed to be willing. The more she adapted, the more her life expanded. She wasn't just receiving updates, she was part of them. Her stubbornness, which once kept her safe, had turned into a wall. But the moment she let go of it, she found herself standing in a room full of joy, laughter, and connection. So if you find yourself bristling at something new, technology, culture, even a new routine, ask yourself, is my resistance serving me, or is it shutting something beautiful out? Change isn't here to erase who you are. It's an invitation to keep growing, to keep relating, and to keep your seat at the table of life. You don't have to do it all. You just have to be open to one thing at a time. Because a heart that stays open to change is a heart that stays young. Habit 4. Hoarding and refusing to let go of clutter. Sarah's house had always been her sanctuary. Every corner was filled with memories. A coffee mug from her honeymoon, the sweater her son wore in third grade, stacks of birthday cards going back decades. To an outsider, it may have looked like clutter, but to her it was a museum of moments. Letting go felt impossible. But over time, her once warm and welcoming space began to feel cramped and heavy. The hallway that once echoed with laughter became a tight path bordered by old boxes. Cabinets were stuffed with gadgets she hadn't used in years. The dining table, once the centerpiece of family dinners, was now buried beneath unopened mail and dusty ornaments. She told herself it was harmless. After all, wasn't it practical to hold on to things just in case? But the truth was harder to admit. Her home was no longer serving her. It was suffocating her. And emotionally, it wasn't just about things. It was about fear. Fear of forgetting, fear of not having enough, fear of letting go of a past that felt safer than the unknown future. Many seniors find themselves in this exact situation. What starts as sentimentality can quietly turn into emotional hoarding. And when that happens, clutter begins to take up more than just physical space. It occupies mental and emotional space too. It drains energy, increases stress, and in extreme cases, can become hazardous to safety and health. Studies show that excessive clutter in older adults is associated with higher rates of anxiety, depression, and even falls. But this isn't just a matter of cleaning up. It's about emotional healing. Because every object you hold on to, just in case, might actually be a weight you don't need to carry anymore. So how do you begin to let go without feeling like you're erasing your history? Start small. Pick one drawer, one shelf, or one box. Ask yourself, do I use this? Does it bring me peace or purpose? Is it tied to a memory I need or one I'm afraid to let go of? Sarah began with her closet. She pulled out dresses she hadn't worn in decades, some still with the tags on. She remembered the occasions she had saved them for, but never attended. And in letting them go, she realized she wasn't letting go of the memories, just the extra weight. Next, she moved to her kitchen, then her hall closet. Slowly but surely, she cleared space. And with every bag she donated, recycled, or gave away, she felt lighter. Her home began to breathe again, and so did she. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting the past. It means making space for the life you still have to live. It means choosing comfort, safety, and peace over a mountain of just in case. And as Sarah discovered, when your space is lighter, your heart often follows. Remember, your memories live in your heart, not in the boxes under your bed. Habit 5, losing patience with others too quickly. Sarah had always seen herself as a patient person. She had raised 3 kids, worked long hours at the library, and dealt with life's curveballs with a quiet grace. But something had changed. Now, even the smallest inconveniences, a long checkout line, a slow driver, or a miscommunication with a customer service rep, sent her into a spiral of frustration. And the worst part, she could feel it happening, but didn't know how to stop it. One afternoon at the pharmacy, a new employee was struggling to scan a coupon on her loyalty card. He apologized for the delay, and Sarah, already tired from the day, snapped, "Isn't this your job? Can you just hurry up?" The young man's face fell. The line behind her grew quiet, and Sarah, mortified by her own reaction, grabbed her bag and left. It haunted her. That wasn't who she wanted to be. What Sarah and so many others don't realize is that patience isn't just about how we treat others. It's about how we manage our own inner world. As we age, it's natural to experience more discomfort, aches, fatigue, slower processing. But that can quietly erode our tolerance. Combine that with the fast pace of the modern world, and suddenly, everything feels like a trigger. But here's the truth. Losing patience doesn't make life move faster. It just makes it harder for you and the people around you. Impatience creates emotional distance. It can turn everyday exchanges into tense encounters. Over time, those small cracks add up, damaging relationships and reinforcing a sense of isolation. So how do we shift out of this pattern? It starts with awareness. The next time you feel yourself getting irritated, pause. Literally, pause. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, is this worth the energy I'm about to spend? Most of the time, the answer is no. Then, try perspective. That slow cashier, maybe it's his first week. That driver in front of you, maybe it's someone's grandmother trying to get home safely. When you see people as human beings instead of obstacles, it becomes easier to extend grace. Patience is like a muscle. You build it through practice. Sarah made a simple but powerful decision: to smile more, to say, "Take your time," to breathe before speaking, and gradually her world softened. The barista at her favorite cafe started remembering her order. Neighbors waved more often. Her daughter said she sounded lighter on the phone. It wasn't just about being nice, it was about choosing peace. And in doing so, Sarah rediscovered a beautiful truth. When you choose to be patient with others, you end up being gentler with yourself. Habit 6, over-talking and not listening. Sarah had always been known as the storyteller in her family. At every gathering, people would laugh at her vivid tales of the past, of holidays gone wrong, of her teenage misadventures, of the time she got caught sneaking cookies from the pantry as a child. She spoke with heart, with detail, and with passion. But slowly, without realizing it, Sarah's storytelling had shifted from charming to exhausting. During phone calls with her daughter, she'd launch into updates about her garden, her neighbor's dog, and what was on sale at the store, without pausing to ask how her daughter's day was. When her granddaughter visited, Sarah eagerly jumped in to give advice before the girl could even finish a sentence. Eventually, the calls grew shorter. The visits became less frequent. Sarah felt the distance but couldn't figure out why, until one day her daughter gently said, "Mom, I love you, but sometimes it feels like you don't really listen." It stung, not because it wasn't true, but because Sarah had never seen herself that way. The truth is, many older adults fall into the same trap, not out of selfishness, but out of a deep desire to share, to stay relevant, to offer wisdom and stories that feel important. But when conversation becomes one-sided, when advice overshadows empathy, it creates a disconnect. People, especially the younger generation, start to feel unheard. And that's the thing about listening. It's not just about being silent while someone else talks. It's about being present. It's about showing genuine interest and making space for others to feel seen. So how do we shift from over-talking to truly listening? It begins with a pause. The next time you're in conversation, take a breath before responding. Instead of jumping in with, "Here's what I think," tell me more about that. Ask open-ended questions. Let others finish their thoughts completely, without rushing to relate or advise. Make eye contact. Nod. React. Reflect back what they're saying, not to correct or compare, but to show you're with them. Sarah began to do just that. On her next call with her daughter, she asked, "What's something this week that made you smile?" Then she listened, really listened. No interruptions, no long stories of her own, just space. And something magical happened. The call lasted longer than it had in months. Her daughter opened up more. Their laughter returned. It wasn't just a conversation, it was connection. The more Sarah practiced, the more she realized that listening wasn't just a skill, it was a gift. One that made others feel important, one that made her feel more deeply connected to the people she loved. So if you've ever wondered why people don't open up to you the way they used to, maybe it's not what you're saying, but how much space you're giving them to say something too. Because at the end of the day, the best conversations aren't about being heard. They're about hearing. And in that hearing, creating closeness that words alone can never achieve. Habit 7. Pushing people away instead of asking for help. Sarah had always worn her independence like a badge of honor. For decades, she'd taken care of her children, her husband, her home, balancing life's many demands without asking for much in return. She handled birthdays, emergencies, broken appliances, and broken hearts. She was the one people leaned on. But as time passed, her joints began to ache more. Stairs felt steeper, and even the grocery bags seemed to grow heavier with every trip. Still, when someone offered help, whether it was her neighbor, her son, or a kind stranger, Sarah smiled and said, "No, I've got it." Except she didn't. She once found herself struggling to open a jar in the kitchen. After several failed attempts, her hands shaking, she sat down and cried, not just from the physical struggle, but from the loneliness that came with it, because saying no, again and again, had quietly closed the doors on connection. Here's the truth no one tells you. Pushing people away doesn't make you strong. It makes you lonely. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. In fact, it's one of the most courageous, deeply human acts we can do. When you ask for help, you're not just allowing someone to do something for you, you're inviting them into your world. You're saying, "You matter to me, I trust you, I need you." That kind of vulnerability doesn't push people away. It pulls them closer. But many seniors like Sarah were raised in a time where asking for help was associated with burdening others. It's not easy to unlearn that mindset. It takes practice. It takes reminders that people want to help, not out of pity, but out of love. So how do you shift? Start small. Instead of brushing off offers of help, try saying yes to one thing. Maybe letting someone carry your groceries or asking a family member to pick something up from the store. Notice how it feels, not just the physical ease, but the emotional warmth that comes from shared connection. Sarah began doing this. At first it was awkward. She still hesitated when her daughter offered to come over and help organize the closet. But one weekend, she said yes. They laughed, told stories as they sorted through old boxes. And Sarah realized something surprising. Letting someone help didn't diminish her independence. It deepened their bond. The next time a young man offered to help her with her suitcase at the train station, she didn't smile and decline. She said, "That would be lovely, thank you." And as they chatted for a few minutes, she realized how many meaningful moments she had missed by insisting on doing it all alone. Here's a powerful truth. People want to feel useful. Allowing them to help you is a gift to both of you. It gives them a sense of purpose, and it gives you relief, connection, and joy. So if you find yourself always saying, "I've got it," maybe it's time to ask, "Could you give me a hand?" Because life is not meant to be done alone. And the more we let others in, the lighter everything becomes. Habit 8. Being too frugal to enjoy life. For most of her life, Sarah had been the queen of saving. She clipped coupons with precision, knew every senior discount in town, and rarely bought anything that wasn't absolutely necessary. Her philosophy was simple: save now, just in case. That mindset served her well for many years. It helped her pay off her home, support her children, and retire with a comfortable cushion. But now in her early 70s, that frugality had become a prison. She still wore clothes that were over a decade old, not because she couldn't afford new ones, but because she convinced herself she didn't need them. She skipped dinner invitations because restaurant meals seemed like a waste. She hesitated to travel, even though she'd dreamed of visiting the mountains since her 30s. She had the means, but not the permission, from herself. And then one day, her best friend Emily said something that stuck. "You've spent your whole life saving for later, but Sarah, when is later going to start?" It hit her like a wave. Being financially responsible is noble, but not when it comes at the cost of living. What's the point of a full bank account if your heart feels empty? If your photo albums stay blank? If you look back and wonder not where your money went, but where your years went? Aging brings a powerful lesson. Time is the currency that matters most. So how do you shift away from the fear of spending? How do you go from hoarding joy to living it? Start by identifying what actually brings you happiness. For some, it's travel. For others, it's experiences. A pottery class, a dance night, a spontaneous lunch with friends. Set aside a joy budget, not for emergencies or repairs, for life. Create a small fund specifically for fun, for connection, for memories. Call it whatever you like: soul savings, happiness fund, YOLO jar. Just make it yours. Sarah did exactly this. She began setting aside a little each month, not just for bills, but for the things she kept putting off. She bought herself a new coat in her favorite color. She took her daughter and granddaughter to a show. She even booked a weekend retreat by the lake, a place she'd always wanted to go, but never let herself. And the joy, it didn't just show up in her face, it showed up in her posture, in her voice, in the way people gravitated toward her again. That glow was more than sunlight. It was the lightness of choosing to live. So if you've been holding back, waiting for the perfect time, hear this: the perfect time is now. Spend on what makes your heart beat faster. Spend on connection. Spend on life. Because you didn't save all these years to die with full accounts and empty days. You saved to live. Habit 9. Talking down to younger generations. Sarah adored her grandson Noah. His visits used to light up her entire week. She loved hearing about his classes, his music, the video games he played, and the world he was growing up in. So different from hers. But lately something had shifted. Their conversations felt shorter, more strained. He spent more time looking at his phone than chatting with her. She could feel the distance growing, even if she couldn't quite explain why. Then one day it clicked. Noah had been excitedly telling her about a new app he was using to learn guitar. Without thinking, Sarah had sighed and said, "Back in my day, we didn't need all these gadgets to learn something. We just practiced." Noah had gone quiet. A few minutes later, he left early. In that moment, Sarah realized something painful. What she thought was harmless nostalgia, just comparing eras, was coming across as dismissive. She wasn't just sharing stories of her youth. She was invalidating his present. The habit of talking down to younger generations often comes from a good place. We want to pass on wisdom, share values, and help those we love avoid the mistakes we made. But if we're not careful, that wisdom can sound like judgment, like criticism, like a wall between generations instead of a bridge. Every generation grows up with different tools, challenges, and realities. It doesn't make one better or worse, it makes them different. And different isn't bad. In fact, it's an opportunity to learn, to connect, to evolve. Sarah began to shift her mindset. Instead of comparing her past to Noah's present, she started asking questions. "What's that app like? Can you show me how you use it?" She listened more, judged less, and something beautiful happened. Noah opened up again. Their conversations got longer. Their laughter came back. She discovered that connection wasn't about sharing the same experiences. It was about sharing curiosity, respect, and love. So if you found yourself starting sentences with, back in my day, ask yourself, am I building connection or closing it off? Instead of correcting, try connecting. Instead of critiquing, try being curious. Because the truth is, young people don't need lectures. They need listeners. And you don't have to agree with everything they do to be proud of who they're becoming. And when you meet them where they are, you might just be surprised how far they'll go to meet you too. Habit 11, ignoring health problems. For many people, growing older brings a quiet sense of resignation. The idea that aches, fatigue, or forgetfulness are just part of aging. Sarah used to think the same. When her joints ached, she called it stiffness. When she felt winded, she blamed it on the weather. And when she felt dizzy one morning, she brushed it off with a laugh, saying, just getting old. But beneath those small moments were silent alarms, warnings her body was sending, and like many others, she had stopped listening. Ignoring health issues doesn't make them disappear. In fact, it can be one of the most dangerous habits we fall into. Small symptoms often point to much larger problems. That persistent cough, it might not just be seasonal allergies. That feeling of exhaustion every day, it could be more than just age. It could be your heart, your thyroid, or your blood sugar. And those forgetful moments, sometimes they are more than just senior moments. Sometimes they're early signs we need to act on. The challenge is that many older adults avoid doctor visits, not out of laziness, but out of fear. Fear of hearing bad news, fear of being told their independence is slipping, or the fear of medical costs, long wait times, or simply being dismissed. But here's the truth. When you ignore your health, you give up your power. When you pay attention, you take it back. Sarah's turning point came after a simple stumble in her garden. She tripped over a stone and fractured her wrist. The doctor gently asked, "When was your last bone density scan?" She had never had one. That fall wasn't just an accident. It was a wake-up call. Her bones were fragile, and her body had been whispering that for years. After the cast came off, Sarah changed her approach. She began tracking her symptoms, scheduling her annual checkups, and taking her medications on time. She even started attending a local balance and mobility class for seniors. What surprised her the most wasn't just how her health improved, it was how her confidence returned. She felt safer in her own body. She felt in control again. Taking care of your health doesn't mean giving up your freedom. It means reclaiming it. It means being able to play with your grandchildren without fear, travel without worry, and wake up in the morning with energy instead of dread. So if there's something you've been ignoring, persistent pain, changes in vision, unusual fatigue, memory lapses, this is your sign to stop waiting. Make the appointment, get the blood test, talk to your doctor. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, ask a loved one to go with you. You don't have to do it alone. Because growing older isn't about fading away. It's about taking charge of your well-being, mind, body, and spirit, so you can continue living the life you love. So here's the truth we often forget until it's too late. Loneliness doesn't come knocking all at once. It slips in through the cracks, through a snap of impatience, a forgotten smile in the mirror, a missed chance to say, I need help. It builds silently in the spaces where we once laughed, loved, and let others in. But just as these habits crept in, they can be gently walked back out. Sarah's story reminds us that it's never too late to rewrite the script. Not with grand gestures, but with small daily choices. Choosing patience instead of frustration, curiosity over criticism, laughter over silence. It's in letting someone help us carry a bag, in brushing our hair with intention, in asking instead of assuming, in listening not to reply, but to understand. Aging is inevitable, but loneliness isn't. You are not meant to fade. You are meant to glow with wisdom, with warmth, with connection. So today I ask you, which habit will you choose to shift? Will you say yes to that dinner invitation? Compliment a stranger? Pick up the phone and call someone just to listen? Or maybe you'll simply look in the mirror and say, I'm still here and I still matter. Because you do. If this video touched something in you, if you saw a bit of yourself or someone you love in these habits, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Talk about it. Heal together. We age better when we age with one another. Leave a comment below. What's one small thing you're going to change today? Let's support each other in choosing connection, not isolation. And as always, if you found value here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with us. Because here, you're never too old to feel seen, never too late to feel loved. Until next time, take care, take heart, and keep the doors to your life open.